The trouble began the moment the stagecoach came thundering into Promise Creek, kicking up a cloud of red Montana dust that swallowed the whole street. People stopped where they stood. Horses lifted their heads. Windows slid open. The town seemed to hold its breath all at once. On the wooden platform outside the Overland station, the four Dalton brothers stood shoulder to shoulder, each one staring at the approaching coach with tight jaws and stiff backs. They looked like men standing on the edge of the biggest choice of their lives. Bo Dalton, the eldest, kept his hat pulled low, but nothing could hide the worry on his face. At 30, he carried the ranch on his shoulders. It had been his idea for all four of them to send letters to the matrimonial agency back east. The Dalton ranch needed steady hands, warm hearts, and a future. But now, as the stagecoach rattled closer, Bo wondered if he had made the worst mistake he could make. Beside him, Finn Dalton shifted his weight like the boards under his boots were burning. Finn was the smooth talker, the charmer, the man who could win a game of cards with one smile. He had picked his bride based on a single line in her letter. He wanted someone witty. Now he tugged at his collar like the summer sun had doubled its heat. Owen Dalton stood slightly apart, quiet and thoughtful, the scholar of the family. He held the small book tucked under his arm, running his fingers along its edge. Owen was not a man for big risks. He had chosen a woman who loved poetry and pressed flowers. He feared she would step off the stagecoach, see the rough land around the ranch, and leave before he said a word. Reed Dalton, the youngest at barely 20, could hardly stand still. Hope filled his eyes. He had picked a bride because she sounded kind. That was all he wanted. Kindness. Someone who would smile at him in a way that made the world feel brighter. The stagecoach rolled to a stop with a groan. Dust swirled around them. The horses tossed their heads. The old driver, Gus, spit a stream of tobacco and shouted, "Daltons! Got a special delivery for you." Bo stepped forward. "We were only expecting 3 brides today," he said. His bride was not due for another month. He opened his mouth to speak again, but the coach door swung open. A young woman stepped out first. She had gentle brown eyes and a warm, hopeful glow. She looked at Promise Creek like it was a land full of wonder and not a rough frontier town. Reed felt something burst open inside him. She looked exactly like he imagined, soft, kind, gentle. She turned back and helped another woman climb down. This one moved with quiet grace, holding a small portfolio close to her chest. Her eyes drifted over the street with careful curiosity. Owen felt a warm shift inside his chest. She looked like someone who loved quiet mornings and old books. Then came the third woman. She stepped down with a firm pace, her chin held high, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. Finn felt his smile pull out without his permission. She had fire. He liked fire. But before anyone could speak, a fourth woman stood in the doorway. She was the oldest, the leader. Her dark hair shone in the sun. Her eyes were steady and deep. She held herself like a woman who had carried heavy burdens, but never bent beneath them. Bo straightened. Her gaze was strong. Too strong. She looked right at him as if she already understood he was the one she would have to face. The 4 women walked toward the Dalton brothers. As they lined up, the truth became clear. Same dark hair. Same high cheekbones. Same quiet pride. They were sisters. Gus let out a whistle. "Well, I'll be." A matched set, all headed to the Dalton ranch. Bo stared, stunned. "Ma'am," he said to the eldest, "there's been a mistake. We were expecting 3 women, not 4. "There is no mistake," the eldest said calmly. "My name is Eleanor Vance. These are my sisters, Isabel, Rosalind, and Genevieve." "You sent for brides," she said, "but I didn't send for 4. She cut him off with a tired, honest look that froze him in place. The agency made a printing error. They listed 4 Dalton brothers seeking brides. We saw a chance to stay together. We took it. Behind her, the younger sisters stood close, their shoulders touching. They looked worn from travel, frightened but united. They feared being separated more than anything. Bo looked at their meager luggage. Everything they owned fit into a few trunks. He saw fear in their eyes, but courage too. Something in his chest tightened. "Gus," Bo said at last, clearing his throat. "Load their trunks." The sisters held their breath. "They can stay at the ranch tonight," Bo said. "Then we'll talk." It wasn't a promise, but it wasn't rejection either. For the Vance sisters, it was hope. For the Dalton brothers, it was the start of something they never expected. The Dalton ranch woke the next morning to a strange kind of quiet. It was not tense, and it was not peaceful. It felt like the moment right before thunder breaks open in the sky. Everyone moved carefully, not sure what the others were thinking. Inside the log house, the Vance sisters tried their best to be useful. They had lived hard lives and learned to work without complaint. They swept floors, washed dishes, and straightened blankets with soft, steady motions. They were trying to show respect to the home that had taken them in. But the brothers did not know what to do with themselves. Reed nearly walked into a wall because Jenny smiled at him while pouring water. He dropped a tin cup because Izzy brushed past him with her sleeves rolled up. Owen tried to read but only managed a few lines at a time. His eyes kept drifting toward Rose sitting near the fireplace, sketching quiet scenes of the ranch. Finn kept finding excuses to go outside so he would not stare at Izzy too long. And Bo watched everything in silence. He spoke little, but his jaw stayed tight from morning until night. By noon, every person in the house was moving around each other like dancers who had never learned the steps. The Vance sisters were making a difference, though. Real change. Nora took charge of the kitchen with calm strength. Soon the smell of warm bread spread through the rooms. It mixed with the scent of pine logs crackling in the stove. The Dalton brothers had not tasted homemade bread in years. When Bo sat down that first morning and took a bite, something softened in his face. He did not speak, but the shift was clear. Out by the barn, Izzy was already arguing with Finn. She had her hair tied back and her sleeves rolled high. She moved like she belonged in a place full of dust and horses. "You're holding the pitchfork wrong," she said flatly. Finn blinked. "I've been using a pitchfork since I was old enough to breathe dust." "And yet," Izzy said, "you're still doing it wrong." Finn stared at her, caught between irritation and admiration. No woman had ever spoken to him that way. He liked it more than he wanted to admit. Rose quietly set up a small space near the fireplace for her sketches. She worked with gentle movements, her pencil gliding across the page. Owen found himself drifting nearby every chance he got. He sat with a book open on his lap, but he barely saw the words. He was too busy stealing small glances at Rose and the calm she carried like a warm blanket. Jenny followed Reed around the ranch with bright curiosity. She asked about everything. The cows, the land, the weather, the stars. Reed answered proudly, smiling so wide his cheeks hurt. He tripped over a bucket when she laughed. She pretended not to notice. By the end of the week, the ranch looked cleaner than it had in years. The barn was organized. The meals were warm and comforting. And every night, all 8 of them gathered at the long wooden table for supper. They talked quietly. They worked together. They tried to understand each other. But every night, the same question lingered in the air like smoke from the fireplace. What happens when the month is over? No one asked it aloud. Not until the trouble arrived. It began with the weekly mail. Owen returned from town holding a letter addressed to the Vance sisters. Nora took it with trembling hands. One look at the Boston postmark, and her face went pale. The sisters hurried into their room. Their whispers were low and fast. When they finally came out, their faces were tight with fear. Bo caught Nora alone in the kitchen that evening. She was standing near the stove, staring at the fire like she could see something far past the flames. "That letter wasn't good news," Bo said quietly. Nora looked at him but did not answer. "It concerns me," Bo said. "Everything under this roof concerns me." Nora's hands tightened around the edge of the table. Her voice was soft. "We just need more time, please." Her eyes held fear and something else too, desperation. Bo felt something shift inside him, the kind of feeling he could not name. "Whoever you're running from," he said gently, "I won't let him take you." Nora's breath shook. She lifted her chin, fighting tears. "We don't want to bring danger to your home." "It's already here," Bo said. "But you are not leaving." Outside, the wind swept over the land, carrying the earthy smell of dust and pine. Somewhere far off, a coyote cried. It was a warning. A sign that peace was not meant to last. The next afternoon, Owen came back from town with pale cheeks and tight shoulders. "A stranger in a city suit is asking about you," he said. "He's not from around here." Quote. The sisters froze in place. Nora's face turned white. Izzy's jaw locked. Rose's hands trembled. Jenny grabbed Reed's sleeve. "Who is he?" Bo asked. Nora swallowed hard. "A Pinkerton detective." The room went silent. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. Fear filled every shadow. And Bo understood then that whatever chased the Vance sisters across the country had finally caught up to them. The knock on the Dalton ranch door arrived early the next morning. Sharp. Cold. A command, not a greeting. The knock echoed through the house like a warning shot. The Dalton brothers were already at the table eating breakfast, but every fork froze in midair. The Vance sisters stood near the hearth, their faces pale, their bodies tense. Bo rose first. Finn's hand slid toward the pistol hanging on the wall. Owen positioned himself beside Rose as if shielding her. Reed stepped in front of Jenny without thinking. Bo opened the door. A man in a clean, gray suit and bowler hat stood on the porch. His boots looked untouched by Montana dust. His eyes were calm, sharp, and watchful. "Mr. Dalton," he said with a polite nod. "My name is Mr. Davies, Pinkerton Detective Agency." Inside the house, Nora's breath hitched. Izzy's fists closed. Rose stepped back into the shadows. Jenny clutched the back of a chair. Bo blocked the doorway. "What's your business here?" Davies pulled a folded paper from his coat. "I'm investigating the disappearance of 4 women from Boston. Their guardian claims they were taken against their will. I have reason to believe they are here." Finn stepped forward with a snort. "Taken? They walked in here on their own 2 feet." Davies did not react. "Either the women come with me now, or I return with the sheriff." Bo did not turn around. He spoke in a steady voice. "They aren't missing. They came willingly." Davies lifted his eyes. "Ladies," he said clearly, "you may come forward if you wish." Nora stepped out from behind Bo. She looked scared but calm. "We are not missing," she said softly. "We traveled here because we wanted to. We are not property." Davis studied her face, then the faces of her sisters. He saw fear, but also fierce courage. "Your guardian claims to care for you," he said. Izzy stepped forward with fire in her eyes. "He doesn't care. He controls." Rose nodded quietly. "He ruined our father with lies so he could keep us." Jenny whispered, "We came here to be safe." Davies took a slow breath. He turned to Bo. "I'll be staying in town for a few days while I investigate." He tipped his hat and walked away. The sisters sank into chairs, shaking with relief. But Bo felt the truth settle in his chest like a heavy stone. The detective was only the beginning. The real danger was close behind. 3 days later, the trouble arrived with a rumble of wagon wheels. Promise Creek fell silent as a wealthy stranger stepped off a rented buckboard. His suit was fine. His hair carefully groomed. His smile smooth and poisonous. Thaddeus Sterling. He bought drinks at the saloon. He shook hands with shopkeepers. He charmed the town. But every word he spoke carried one message. The Vance sisters belonged to him. By sundown, he had bought the mortgage on the Dalton ranch. By the next morning, he had half the town believing 4 helpless girls had been tricked by cowboys. Truth did not matter to a man like Sterling. Only power. Sterling and the sheriff rode out to the ranch the next afternoon. Behind them, Mr. Davies followed on horseback, his face unreadable. The brothers stood shoulder to shoulder on the porch. The sisters stood behind them. Sterling smiled like a snake. "Girls," he said warmly, "I've come to bring you home." Nora lifted her chin. "We are home." Sterling unfolded a crisp document. "This is a legal guardianship order. The court has given me full authority over your care." The sheriff nodded stiffly. "It seems valid." Bo stepped forward. "They stay here by choice." "Choice?" Sterling laughed. "These girls are confused, frightened, penniless. They don't know what they want." Owen stepped up beside Bo. "Nora is 25, Izzy 23, Rose 22, Jenny 19. They are grown women." Sterling's smile cracked. His voice dropped cold. "These women belong with me." "No," Bo said. "They belong where they feel safe." Quote, "Sheriff," Sterling ordered, "remove them." The sheriff took one uncertain step forward. Davy stopped him. "Before you do," he said calmly, "you should know the Pinkerton Agency has reopened an investigation into Mr. Sterling's business affairs." Sterling froze. "That is a lie." Davies continued, "There are records missing from the Vance estate, a ledger, witness statements, evidence that their father may have been falsely accused." The sheriff stepped back. Davies met Sterling's eyes. "You cannot buy the law." "Not today." Sterling's face turned red with fury. He glared at Nora. "This is not over." Bo's voice was steady. "Yes, it is. Now leave." Thaddeus Sterling mounted his horse and rode off as fast as he came, not defeated by gunfire, defeated by truth. The weight that had followed the Vance sisters for years lifted like a shadow blown away by the Montana wind. That night, the ranch filled with laughter. Real laughter. The kind that shakes loose fear and replaces it with hope. Ben and Izzy argued under the stars until arguing turned into smiling, and smiling turned into a kiss. Owen and Rose sat near the firelight, their fingers brushing until they held hands like they had been doing it forever. Reed and Jenny walked through the small garden they planted, dreaming out loud about the future. Inside the kitchen, Bo found Nora leaning against the table. Her face was tired but free. Bo stepped close. "You asked for a month," he said gently. "Take all the time you need. This is your home." Nora looked into his steady eyes, eyes that had protected her, challenged her, believed her. "This is my home," she whispered. Bo took her hands. "Then stay, not because you have to, because you want to." Her answer came with a trembling smile. "I want to." In the soft lantern light, he pulled her into his arms. Not a bargain, not a deal, just love. In the heart of Montana, 4 brothers and 4 sisters built a life stronger than any storm. Their story spread through Promise Creek and beyond. A story of courage. A story of family. A story of true love.